Hi, I'm Rebecca Piper and I'm here today talking to Nneka Abolokwe about her DBA research. Nneka, you're looking at offshore engagement models in relation to software development and delivery. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, I'm looking at a software offshore delivery models, successful offshore engagement models within the IT services industry. And this is all around how projects are delivered from offshore locations. So that could be delivered to the UK, anywhere in Europe or North America, but delivered from mainly offshore locations such as India. You have Morocco in Africa, you have South America for American countries, yeah. So that is all around how these software engagement models operate and how they can operate a lot more efficiently. So looking at the engagement models employed by IT services providers, either as an offshore captive or third-party offshoring. So it's looking at outsourcing and offshoring generally. Yeah.
And what are the issues that you found surrounding that?
Well, the issues I found actually, I'll take you back a little bit to why I started my DBA, because I was a project manager, project program manager, responsible for delivering offshore projects. So working very heavily in consulting for IT services and delivering projects from offshore locations such as India. Now, as part of that, the projects, we had issues with the projects, projects failing, and some projects being very successful and not understanding what the relationship was between the project success or the project practices and success, and looking at the engagement models. So I went out there, my research itch began when I started looking for answers to questions, and there was nothing out there in the academic and practitioner literature. So that gave me the opportunity to look around to see what institutes provided the avenue for me to explore and help to rewrite the rulebook on this topical issue. Cranfield at the time was a natural choice for me because I had done my exec management here, and I also respected a lot of the work that had been done by David Partington as well, who was part of the International Center for Program Management. So I put together a proposal, and then that was accepted, and then I explored the DBA, the avenue, the DBA route, which gave me a lot of what I was looking for in terms of a structured program alongside my day job. So Cranfield provided me that avenue to do that. Now, in starting my DBA, my broad DBA question, or the overarching DBA question, was around looking at successful engagement models, IT services. And that in itself, to me at the time, was clear, but of course could mean all things to all men. And only in starting and undertaking my first research project did things become quite clear, because my first research project was an empirical piece that looked at the project managers as a unit of analysis. So understanding the pain points of the project managers and understanding how these things manifested themselves in practice, and also linking that back to the literature. Now, the findings out of my project one, there were three main findings, and the findings were around the organization. So even if you had an organization that had an offshore captive unit, so in India or in one of the offshore locations, understanding that there were differences between the practices in different geographies. The second was also around culture. So culture did have an impact, which of course the symptoms were all around the issues with projects failing and all of that, but culture had a main impact. And the third was communication. Now, the main finding out of my first project was that looking at the major cultural dimensional studies, the seminal studies that have been done out there, the Hofstedes, the Globes of this world, looking at those models and understanding that those models could not necessarily be operationalized in practice, and saying, well, fine, yes, Hofstede says this, Globe says this, but really when you take the lid off and do an empirical piece and go out there and look at the issues may not necessarily correlate. They're issues in their own right that may manifest in the IT services industry, or it could be a different industry, construction for instance, but the issues are very, very sort of linked to specific industries. So that for me that was something very good for me, and the findings of my first project. But that also gave rise to the output for my second project, because the DBA is structured in three pieces. You do three thematically linked projects, and then that forms your DBA. And then I've gone back to the literature to understand what does the literature say about these things. So at this point in time, I'm looking at the literature, talking to the literature, understanding, doing a systematic review of the literature around my area to understand what the literature says, and that will give rise to my next empirical piece, which I'm hoping to start in a few months.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
And who will the results of your research impact on? Who will find them relevant?
Well, the general target audience for my research is the practitioner audience, yeah? Of course, it's going to be informed by theory, which is the academics, yeah, underpinned by the theory, yeah?
Sure.
But my project one looked at project managers as the unit of my analysis. So I actually went out there, interviewed project managers, engaged with project managers to understand their pain points, yeah? Project 2 was more going back to the literature, yep, to say, okay, how does literature inform practice, yep? And then project 3, I'm going to look at it from a completely different lens, which is more of a strategic, taking it up to the organization level. So we're looking at it from 3 different levels, more the operational type project delivery level, and then I'm looking at it from the strategic lens, and then also at some point I will look at it from the process lens. So it will appeal to project managers, strategic managers, organizations out there, and within the practitioner arena, as well as the academic arena as well.
Great.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing how your work progresses.
Thank you very
for your
much.
time, Nicola.
Thank you very much. Yeah.